The ice caps are melting because of pollution, such as burning of fossil fuels, which increases carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere. Pollution is destroying the ozone layer, and because of this, the temperature is rising and melting the ice. Ice caps are extremely important. They protect marine animals, and they are the habitat of many land animals. Some life that is affected by the melting of the ice are beluga whales, krill, coral reefs, seals, polar bears, and penguins. Beluga whales rely on the ice to protect them from predators like orcas, which are commonly known as killer whales. They don't have dorsal fin, which allows them to move easily under the ice. Sea ice also forms an important foundation of its food web. The Arctic sea ice hosts algae, which sustains a food chain up to the belugas. In the spring, the ice melts. Then the algae goes to the sea floor, where small organisms can eat it. Then, benthic fish eat those small organisms. Belugas eat the benthic fish. If the base of the food chain is removed, then there will be bad consequences. Without thick, solid ice expanses, seal babies drown or are crushed by broken up chunks of ice. As climate change continues to degrade the amount of ground ice, the average pup survival rate is likely to drop over the years. Some years, when there's poor ice in a given pupping ground, essentially all of the pups don't make it. Harp seals give birth to pups on Arctic ice floes before they grow large enough, which is 6 weeks, to go in the water for a long time. They spend most of their time on ice platforms for nursing and resting. But as the ice melts faster, pups are forced into the water before they are ready. These pups are at risk for hypothermia, starvation, and being crushed by moving ice. Yearlings, which are 1 to 2 years old, eat mostly on the edge of the ice on small crustaceans and fish, like krill, capelin, and sand lance, which use sea ice as shelter. Yearlings are being stranded. They are especially susceptible to stranding because they are smaller, weaker, and have less experience. Krill are some of the most important animals in the food chain. They feed penguins, whales, and many other animals. They depend on the ice for shelter and breeding. Because of its decline, 80% have died. If they keep declining, the food chain will be off balance and the larger animals will starve. Polar bears rely on the ice to hunt, mainly seals, and rest. The future reduction of sea ice in the Arctic could result in a loss of 2/3 of the world's polar bear population within 50 years. Penguins breed and raise their young on the ice, so if the ice melts, then they will have difficulty populating. Global warming is also affecting their diet by killing the krill and starving the fish. The Adélie penguins have survived in Antarctica for around 45,000 years. Up to 60% of the current Adélie penguin habitat in Antarctica could be unfit to host colonies by the end of the century. Some colonies saw decline over 80%. Many Antarctic researchers believe that climate change will affect penguins through 2 main ways: the availability of food and nesting habits. 2 of the main ways coral reefs are dying is by the rise of the sea levels, by thermal expansion, which is when the water warms up and expands, and the contribution of ice sheets when the polar ice caps melt. Research suggests that even though the rapid growth rate of many corals seems sufficient to keep pace with the annual sea level rise, the overall net vertical accretion, which is when the coral grows up instead of out, of reefs may be much slower than the growth of individual coral colonies. The existing threats to reefs, which are the rise of sea temperature, acidification, disease, and overfishing, reduce corals' ability to keep pace with the sea levels, especially acidification. Also, the increase in sea levels increases the sedimentary process that may interfere with feeding, photosynthesis, recruitment, and other reef processes.